You think you've reached the promised land of a mature relationship because the shouting has stopped. You sit on the couch, side by side, scrolling through your phones in a silence so thick you could carve it. You mistake this for harmony. You call it peace. You congratulate yourselves on finally becoming adults who don't resort to petty arguments. It's a convenient lie. The truth is far more brutal. You haven't transcended the need for conflict. You have simply surrendered the right to be understood. When you stop fighting, you stop caring about being known. You aren't peaceful. You are finished. You are two ghosts coexisting in a shared space, performing the choreography of a couple without the soul of a connection. Most people fear the heat of an argument. They view a raised voice as a symptom of a failing bond. They are wrong. A fight is an attempt to bridge a gap. It is a desperate, messy, and loud declaration that says, I am here, I am frustrated, and I need you to see me. It is an investment of energy. It is the friction required to refine two separate identities into a shared reality. When you care enough to scream, you are still fighting for a version of the future that includes the other person's perspective. But the moment you slide into this comfortable, hollow silence, that investment account goes bankrupt. You stop trying to explain your world because you have decided, consciously or otherwise, that the other person is no longer capable of understanding, or worse, that they are simply not worth the effort of correction. This is the silent betrayal that nobody warns you about. It doesn't happen with a bang, it happens with a shrug. You see a behavior that annoys you, something that once would have triggered a heated debate, and you just look away. You swallow the grievance. You tell yourself you're being kind or patient, but you're actually just checking out. Every time you hold back a complaint, you are trimming a piece of yourself away to fit into a mold that requires less friction. You are prioritizing the convenience of an easy evening over the necessity of a deep connection. You watch your partner change, watch them retreat, and you watch yourself do the same, yet you both smile over dinner. The silence becomes a wall, thick and soundproof, keeping your real thoughts, your true fears, and your deepest needs safely locked inside. You become strangers who know each other's schedules, but are completely ignorant of each other's inner lives. It is a slow, methodical erasure of intimacy. Think about it. When was the last time you actually challenged your partner on something that truly mattered to your values? When was the last time they made you genuinely angry, and instead of brushing it off, you sat down to pick it apart until you understood the why behind the action? If you can't remember, you aren't in a relationship. You are in a holding pattern. You have reached a state of functional indifference. The danger here is that it feels incredibly safe. It feels like stability. You don't have to deal with the messy vulnerability of explaining your pain. You don't have to navigate the exhausting process of compromise. You get the comfort of a warm body next to you without the taxing requirement of a shared mind. It is a bargain where you trade the possibility of profound connection for the guarantee of quietude. But silence is not neutrality. Silence is an active choice to let things rot. In the ecosystem of human interaction, lack of maintenance equals decay. If you don't prune the garden, the weeds don't just stop growing, they choke out the flowers. By refusing to argue, you are essentially saying that the status quo is more important than the truth. You are saying that the version of your partner that exists in your head is good enough, even if it's a caricature that lacks the nuance of their real self. You stop asking questions because you've already decided on the answers. You stop listening because you've already predicted their reactions. You have turned your partner into a script you've memorized, and you get bored because there are no more surprises, no more growth, no more friction. This is the irony of the perfect couple that never fights. They are often the ones who wake up 10 years later and realize they have absolutely nothing to say to each other. They have spent a decade carefully avoiding the potholes of conflict, only to find they have driven off a cliff of apathy. They didn't grow apart, they just stopped growing toward each other. They allowed the distance to grow because it was easier than the intensity of drawing near. Every argument you suppressed was a brick in the wall you built between you. Every fine, let it go was a withdrawal from the bank of your intimacy. You thought you were keeping the peace, but you were actually liquidating your assets. There is a terrifying dignity in a messy, loud, honest fight. It takes courage to expose your soft underbelly to someone who has the power to hurt you. It takes grit to stay in the ring when everything in you wants to walk away and just be left alone. Those who argue are those who are still trying to find a way to be one. They are still fighting for the relationship. They still believe that the truth is worth the temporary discomfort of a collision. When the fighting dies, the relationship is already on life support. The heartbeat of a partnership is the dialogue, and sometimes, dialogue needs to be loud, desperate, and imperfect to keep the blood flowing. So, look at that silence in your house tonight. Don't mistake it for wisdom. It is the sound of surrender. You have traded your passion for convenience and your intimacy for peace. You are not peaceful. You are simply waiting for the inevitable end of a story that you stopped writing a long time ago. The tragedy isn't that you're unhappy, it's that you've become perfectly, hollowly comfortable with being unknown. You have reached the final stage of resignation, where you no longer care enough to be angry, and that is where love truly draws its last breath. Stop fighting, you lose each other. Keep silent, you lose yourself.